Welcome to Math Online Academy. In this lesson, we want to learn zero fraction. If you bring your calculator and you press 0/2, it will give you 0. If you press 0/5, it will give you 0. If you press 0/100, it will still give you 0. But if you press 1/0, it will give you error. If you press 20/0, it will give you error. Now, what this means is that the zero fraction is whatever you can do to a fraction so that the answer will give you 0. Whatever you can do to a fraction so that the answer will give you 0. Or how you can manipulate a fraction so that the answer will give you 0. And the best way to do that is for you to make the numerator to be equal to 0. In our previous lesson, we talked about representation of fraction, and we said that in a fraction we have numerator and denominator. If A/B represents a fraction, if this represents a fraction, this is the numerator and this is the denominator. Now, in zero fraction, our goal is to make the numerator equal to 0. When the numerator is equal to 0, you remember that if you bring your calculator and press anything, if you press 0 and divide it by anything, it will give you 0. So if you see 0/20, it will give you 0. 0/100 will still give you 0. 0/1000 will still give you 0. So the goal in zero fraction is to make sure that the numerator is equal to 0, so that what we have as a numerator is equal to 0. And then whatever we have as the denominator, if we divide the 0 by whatever we have as the denominator, it is going to give us 0. So that is what we do in zero fraction. Now, for instance, let's look at this example. Example 1. If we have (4x + 9) divided by 2x, and we are asked to find the value of x, which makes the fraction equal to 0. That we should find the value of x, which makes this fraction equal to 0. Now, solution. If we want to make the fraction equal to 0, remember, what you are going to do is to make the numerator equal to 0. So what we are now going to say is that since this one represents the numerator, we now equate the numerator equal to 0. So we say that 4x + 9 is equal to 0. Now we have made the numerator equal to 0. Now we find the value of x from this equation. The value of x from this equation is going to be 4x is equal to -9. 9 has positive here. It is coming to this side. It becomes negative. And then x is equal to -9/4. X is equal to minus 9 over 4. This is the value of x for which the fraction there is equal to 0. So this is how to get the 0 of a fraction. Now let's solve another example. Example 2. If we have x squared plus 3x plus 2 over 4x plus 13, and we are asked to find the value of x for which this fraction is equal to 0. Once you hear the value of x for which a fraction is equal to 0, remove your mind entirely from the denominator. Just do like you don't have any denominator in the fraction, because you are not going to do anything at all with the denominator. So this denominator here is useless. Whenever you hear make a fraction equal to 0, just take the denominator to be useless. Your focus, your attention is going to be on the numerator, which is the upper side, this one. And for you to make the fraction equal to 0, make the upper side equal to 0. So now we have x squared minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. We have made the numerator equal to 0. Now, in this case, it has resulted to a quadratic equation. It is not a linear equation like the one we solved before. This one is now a quadratic equation. So we solve it. How do we solve a quadratic equation? We factorize it. So we have x squared minus, we ask ourselves, what are the two things that when we find their products, it is going to give us 2. That is, when we multiply 2 of them, it will give us 2. And when we add 2 of them, it is going to give us 3. That is how to factorize this. What are two values that when I add them, it will give me 2. When I multiply them, it will give me 2. And when I add them together, it will give me 3. That is the center one. The center one is for the addition, while the last number is for the product, that is multiplication. Now let's say we have 2 times 1 is equal to 2, and we have to take notice of the minus side here. Whatever we are doing, it must also give us minus 3 and not just 3 alone. If you say plus 2 times minus 2, it will give us minus. If you say plus 2 times plus 1, it will give us plus 2. Now 2 plus 1 will give us 3, positive 3, not minus. So we cannot take this one. Now let's try minus 2 and plus 2 and minus 1. That is 2 times minus 1. It will give us minus 2, but what we have is plus 2, so this one is not part of it. Now let's say minus 2 plus 2. Minus 2 times 1. Now this will give us minus 2 again, so this is not part of it because what we have is plus 2, so we clean it. Now let's say minus 2 minus 1. Now this will give us if a minus times a minus, it is going to give us plus. So minus 2 times minus 1 will give us plus 2. Now minus 2 minus 1, that is when we add 2 of them. Minus 2 plus minus 1 will give us minus 3. Minus 2 plus minus 1 is equal to minus 2 minus 1, and this gives us minus 3. So minus 2 and minus 1 is the correct factor. So we use this one that is here, we use the factors to replace it instead of writing 3x. Now that thing we have gotten as the factors, we use 2 of them to replace this 3x. So we are going to have x raised to power 2 minus 2x minus 1x. That is minus x, because what we have is minus 2 and minus 1. We have to add x because we are using it to replace 3x, minus 3x here. So we have to add x to each of them, minus 2, and for 1 minus 1x, which is minus x. Then the 2 at the last still remain where it is, plus 2. Now this, everything is equal to 0. Now we collect or factorize further. So we have or we can rearrange it to have let's have like terms together. X squared, the ones that contain 2, let them be together, and the ones that do not contain 2, let them stay together. So x squared minus x, then minus 2x plus 2 is equal to 0. Now this means that if we take a factor, what is common between x raised to power 2 and x, we take the factor out. And for this one, what is common between 2 of them? For this one, x the first one, x is common between two of them. So if we take one of the x, for x squared, if you say x squared divided by x, you are going to get only one x. So we have x outside a bracket. Then use this x and divide x squared. You are going to get x. This is minus, so minus x divided by x, that is the second one. X divided by x will give us 1. Then the second part of it, 2x plus 2, that is now minus 2x plus 2 minus 2x plus 2. What is common between 2x and 2? 2 is common because 2 is in the other one, and also it is in 2x and it's also in 2. So we bring the 2 outside the brackets. Now use these 2 outside the brackets to divide 2x. We get x. Now we use the 2x again to divide 2. We are going to get 1. We are going to get 1. Now remember that what we have inside the bracket is plus 2. Plus 2. So whatever we are going to get, we are going to make sure that if we multiply it with what is outside, we are going to get plus. Now here, we have minus 2 here. Now let's say that you have 1. Now we don't know the symbol, the sign to take, whether it is plus or minus. Now what you are going to consider is this. Since I already have minus 2 outside the brackets, now and here we have plus 2. That means that whatever I'm going to do to this minus, to this one here, it is something that if I multiply the minus 2 to it, it is going to give me plus 2. Now assuming that I write plus 1, if I say minus 2 times plus 1, it is going to give me minus 2. But we are supposed to have plus 2. So we are not going to use plus here. Now let's write minus 1. We say minus 2 minus 1. That is minus 2 times minus 1. That is going to give us plus 2. So if we try to multiply back, that is what will give us the original number there, which is the plus 2. So what we are going to use is minus 1. Now if you look at this, what is here in this bracket is what is here in the second bracket. Now if that is the case, we take only one of the brackets. Then the ones that are outside the bracket, that is this one and this one, we put them together. So we now have this x, which is this one now, then and this 2, which is minus 2, we put two of them together. And then we take only one of the brackets, which is x minus 1. Now everything is equal to 0. Now we find the value of x by saying that it is either x minus 2 is equal to 0 or x minus 1 is equal to 0. So we have either x minus 2 is equal to 0 or x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now if we take that x minus 2 is equal to 0. For this one, now for x to stay alone, then 2 has to come to this side. That means that x is equal to plus 2, that is 2. So for that side, x is equal to 2. Or for the second one, if x stay alone, the minus 1 will come to this side and becomes plus. So x is equal to plus 1, which is 1. So s is equal to 2 or 1. So this is what will make the equation equal to 0. This is the answer. So the value of x that will make the fraction, this fraction, equal to 0 is when we add, it is either we add 1 to replace x, or we add 2 to replace x. Whether we put 1 or we put 2, it is going to make this equation equal to 0 when we divide through. So this is it about zero fractions. In exams, they may give you a linear equation or a linear expression as the numerator. They can give you a quadratic expression as the numerator. But all you know is that when you are asked to find the zero of a fraction, just make whatever you have as the numerator, make it equal to 0, and that will give you the zero fraction. So if we have x over 5x plus 0 plus 7, and we are asked to make this fraction to be equal to 0. Now what we are going to do is that, since this one is that we should find the value of x when this fraction is equal to 0. Now since this is the numerator, we just say that x is equal to 0. So this expression is equal to 0 when x is equal to 0. That is it. So whatever we have as x or as the numerator, we equate it to 0, and then we simplify or we evaluate it further if there is any need for it. And whatever we now get as the value of x will now give us the value of s for which the fraction is equal to 0. So this is what we have in this class. Now your assignments. In this your assignment, you are going to solve the following. So you are going to look for the value of s for which the following fractions are equal to 0. Number 1, number 2, 5x plus 6 over 2x plus 1. Find the value of x for which this expression or this fraction is equal to 0. Number 3. Now this one is a quadratic expression, so you find the value of x for which this fraction is equal to 0 using the procedure I taught you. Now we have 2x plus 3 raised to power 2 over 2x plus 13 plus 15. So this is the assignment that you have. You solve this and you submit it in the class. Thank you. If you have any need to contact me, you can get me on WhatsApp by sending a message to me on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is 07051481790. So you can send me a message on WhatsApp if there is anything you still need me to explain. Thank you.